Hello, everybody. My name is Dratnos, and welcome to Heroic Silken Court. This is the second to last boss of the raid, and it's cool as heck on Heroic. This is so cool. So the two bosses share health with each other. There's a tank one and a caster one. The tank one, does a piercing strike, physical damage taken dot thing or debuff thing that you want to watch out for. The caster one kind of jumps around the room, although it's predictable where it's going to jump to. So in some of our pulls, we would pre-move the boss to where it was going to jump to the other one so that they could be stacked up more of the time. Call of the Swarm came out there, just made some scarabs, just killed them. They didn't seem to do too much. And then you can see there are these webs on the ground. Now, these webs are pretty interesting because the way it works is that when somebody walks into the middle of the web, it will link them with anybody else that was inside the web. So you can see here, we've got these two people linked and these two people linked. And the way that works is that these two people were both inside the webbing area, and then one of them walked in and touched the orb, and then that removes that webbing, but links the two people. And you need to do this because the boss is about to cast Reckless Charge here, and on Heroic, it needs to go through 2 webs. If it goes through less than 2 webs, it's going to hit the wall and do big raid damage. On Mythic, I think it needs to go through 3. On Normal, I think it needs to go through 1. But you can see that kind of webs the boss up. And then in order to break your webs, you just run far enough away and break it. I'm clearing the remaining webs because if you just go and hit the middle of a web with nobody else inside of it, it just breaks it, it clears it. So that's an easy enough thing to do. And that is how that mechanic plays. So pretty cool little, thing there. And it's... Yeah, sort of simple enough. You get some of these poison swirly globules that you want to spread in this phase, but it's a pretty simple phase otherwise. You just kind of keep rinsing and repeating, and we're going to get another one of those borrow charges soon. And I guess we try and keep the bosses stacked a little bit better, and do a little better job of doing that than we have been. Again, some more of those scarabs coming out, fixating on people, running after them, cleave them down, don't get hit by the one fixating you. They're CCable too, so those are getting CC'd as possible. But again, we just want to make sure that we set up a couple of our... There's another Reckless Charge coming out, so we want to make sure that we set up a couple of webs. You can see we've got them already set up. And I can stand in this line because the boss isn't going to reach me, right? It's going to get webbed before it does. And so we're able to kill this off. After you do the second charge here, I think that... I'm not sure if it's percent-based or if it's time-based, but this was always when we were pushing into the first intermission, which is coming soon here. And... the first intermission is the caster boss. Yeah, here it comes. Sort of teleports into the middle of the room, puts a big old shield on itself, and starts shooting out these webs. And the webs will then fire in the same order they were placed. So you just kind of see which one was the first one placed, and then you stand next to it, you wait for it to shoot, and then you stand in where it was. And there's really not actually anything else going on in this phase. So you could wait in this phase for DPS CDs to come back up. Hopefully they change that so that's not something you could do, but you could just wait there. It ends when you break the shield. So as of right now, at least, unless there's an overall berserk timer on the fight, the best strategy for this boss would be to wait for all your CDs to come back up during that phase and just keep dodging because there's basically no damage coming out. But it's not... I don't know, hopefully it doesn't end up actually making it live like that. There could just be some ticking damage in that phase, or it could just kill you after 30 seconds or something if you don't break the shield. Would fix that. So then we get into phase 2 here. In phase 2 now, the caster boss is going to grip us all in with Web Vortex, which should grip you all in, web you to a random person, and then you need to run out and get out of that circle before it explodes and kind of stagger breaking the webs, because I think each time you break one of the webs, it does a little bit of raid damage, so you don't want to do it all at once. I'm not 100% sure on that. It didn't look like it was doing much damage if it was doing some, but that was what somebody in raid said. That particular time, it bugged out and didn't web us all together. Now, the other mechanic here, you can see 3 people got a debuff on themselves here. Jack, Diaz, and Iridal. I just went back in time a little bit. And so what we have is 3 raid markers around the middle of the room. The caster teleports to the middle of the room. And the way it works is that when you dispel this buff, it jumps onto the closest target, friend or foe. Or at least it can also be I'm not sure if it can go on both bosses, but it can also go on the caster boss. So what you want to do is we set up these 3 markers. We just had everybody run, the 3 people with the debuff run there. Everybody else run away from those markers. And then we mass dispelled and just all 3 jumped onto the boss. You could do it a little bit differently as well. You could just have people take turns running under the boss and getting dispelled, calling for a dispel. But you need to make sure that all 3 of these debuffs end up on the boss, because once anybody has 3 stacks of the debuff, they will get sort of dazed, and so we can interrupt the boss from casting its raid wiping ability that it was trying to do there by dispelling those 3 debuffs onto it. Again, we did it with the sort of mass dispelling in a triangle thing, but there's a lot of different ways there. You can see again this grip, web you to a friend, and then try and kill you, if you don't run out thing happening. And then we have, just some dodges, sort of like those first intermission dodges. The graphic moved a little bit weird there. Again, we have 3 more of those dispels out. So once the way this one works, I think, is that the boss teleports to the middle, grips us in, and then starts channeling its wipe you cast. So everybody needs to run out. The 3 people with the debuffs then need to run back in to transfer those debuffs back onto the boss. So here that comes. Web vortex gripping us all in. And everybody now running out, breaking their webs, and then the 3 people with the targets all running back into the middle. You can see, again, sorry about the stream alert there, then getting mass dispelled under the boss. Does a little bit of raid damage when you do that mass dispel as well, but it's okay. The Sky Spinner, whatever its name is, gets itself stunned, and now we go into the second intermission. So this intermission is the other boss now standing in the middle, getting a big shield. And this one, you just want to make sure you don't stand in these effects. If you do, you will get impaled when they explode. So you just kind of want to try and, dodge, sort of remember which ones are about to explode and then juke in between them, because sometimes there will be quite a lot in a small space. But if somebody does get hit, they'll just get impaled on a spike, and you need to break that spike in order to free them. But it's not too hard to dodge here, as long as you keep in your head which ones are old and which ones are new, which, it was actually pretty fun. That was a fun phase to play, fun little dodge to do. Again, you could keep it going indefinitely, although, people will start getting spiked if you try and make them do that for a minute, I suspect. So it does make some sense to break through that phase in particular a little bit faster, I think, than the first intermission. But there's no other raid damage happening there, so you could, in theory, again, delay until all your CDs come back up. And then the boss doing this Unleash Swarm thing. We've got, raid damage starting to ramp up on everybody. Another grip coming out into run out and break our webs. And this is, I guess, sort of the last phase here, where it's kind of got all the mechanics. Oh, and this part's really important. We don't want to break all of your webs here, because the boss is doing those burrow charges again. So unfortunately here we did accidentally break our second to last web. So the boss is going to hit the wall here. So I called out defensives, and then enough people pressed defensives, and we were able to live. But it was still a little sketchy. But yeah, that's it for the fight. You can see again, there's kind of all the mechanics starting to happen again here. Now we've got those spikes from that second intermission happening, just sort of around the boss at all times. And it's really become sort of hectic, but all the mechanics they feel fair, but they also feel important. And I think that this fight just looks sick. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to play. The mythic mechanic looks incredible as well. The mythic mechanic on this fight is like, you pick one of the bosses to get marked by, and then if you ever walk near the other color marks, you explode. But you have to keep dropping motes that only people of the other colored mark can clear. So you have to kind of do a dance where you're moving around and like occupying the same space as each other. Looked really cool. I didn't test that. I think that was tested last week. I wasn't here last week for some of the mythic testing, so unfortunately you won't have a video on that from me unless they retest it, which I don't think they will. But anyways, or maybe they haven't tested this one yet on mythic. I'm not sure. There are going to be some bosses that aren't in this playlist, basically, because I missed the testing on them last week. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.